Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about how you can make money by renting out your van during the times when you're not using it. Because in countries like France and probably some other European countries too, it really costs a lot of money to just let your camper sit unused. If you don't have a parking spot, either at someone's place or with a professional, so sometimes you think, maybe I could try to make some money with it instead. So first of all, can you actually rent out your camper? Yes, it's possible. Now, in the age of Web 2.0, there are platforms that take care of that. But for that, you'll still need to do a few things on your end. So first, make sure your camper is spotless and that you get it checked by a mechanic. That's kind of obvious. That way, you'll make sure it's up to standard and that everything is good with the technical inspection. It would be a shame to have to go help your renter out in the middle of some region you really don't want to go to. So why is that? It's a good thing to rent out your camper. It's a good thing because, just like with Airbnb, it lets you earn some extra income. Because it's true that maintaining a camper isn't always cheap, or sometimes you even have a loan on it that you'd like to pay off. And also, these little machines, they like to be driven. And it's true that when they're not being driven, they do deteriorate a bit because of the rain, leaks, all that stuff. I'm saying this just checking in case I have a leak myself. So this money can absolutely be used to cover maintenance costs, insurance, servicing, or even to pay for your next vacation. Personally, we paid around 20,000 euros for our camper van. That was already 5 years ago, including the solar panel and all the installations. Personally, I'm thinking more and more about renting it out to generate some extra income. I still haven't done it yet. I'll explain my situation and why I can't do it right away. So, there are two ways you can rent out your camper van. Either you do it the old-fashioned way, renting directly between individuals. But you should know that you'll face challenges you wouldn't have if you went through a specialized platform. Obviously, you'll have to handle pretty much everything yourself. And a camper van isn't like an apartment. It's something that moves around, and unlike your apartment, there's no risk of it hitting a bridge, an oncoming car, or a tree. Your apartment is stationary, so you might have other problems, but generally it's not something that could destroy your entire home. You see, with a camper van, if someone rents it who doesn't know how to drive, isn't used to it, and ends up wrecking your camper van because they hit a bridge, that's kind of the issue with renting directly from one person to another. In case of an accident, it's going to be tough, so you'll have to handle all the administrative paperwork yourself. So even if in theory it could save you money, in the end, I'm not sure it's that appealing. It's the same thing even for apartments. You see, it's the same deal. For my apartment, at first I rented it out without an agency, and I was lucky. It went really well for 2 years. Then, since I realized along the way that it was kind of a hassle to deal with changing tenants, I put it with an agency. And that was a great decision because while it was with the agency, I had to deal with 2 water leaks from the apartment just above. If I had had to handle it myself, I would have had to go back and forth all the time. I would have had to stop the road trip and come back to take care of it. That would have been 100 times more expensive than just paying the real estate agency every month to manage the property. So as you can see, if you ever want to rent out your camper van, I'm going to steer you instead toward an online platform. And when it comes to online platforms, there aren't 50 of them out there. I know you'll find in the description a link to my article where the different platforms are explained. But anyway, you're not there yet. Yescapa, it's kind of funny because I just got an email saying they need to raise funds through private equity. So you can even invest in Yescapa. I haven't done it. But hey, they're well known in France and Europe. It's a service where I registered my camper van to give it a try. But again, I haven't taken the plunge yet. I really want to get the camper van in perfect shape before I rent it out. Just in case, this platform includes comprehensive insurance, which can help you avoid the problems we talked about earlier. So, tailored escape. You'll see happy, but that's more connected to a dealership system and it's mainly for the French market. And you'll also have Wikicampers, which you've probably already mentioned, and it also has the advantage of a concierge service. There are things like indie campers, Campeta. Well, Campeta seems more for a company, really. Anyway, there are plenty. There are a few companies, but I think the most well-known is still Yescapa. Feel free to use the link in the description if you ever want to do it, because you'll also be supporting the channel at the same time, and that's cool for me. To compare the differences between the platforms, pay special attention to the insurance options. And make sure it covers pretty much all the risks that would freak you out the most with your camper van. Honestly, I think that's the main thing I'll be looking at when weighing the pros and cons of each platform. Maybe going with one that's more local, European, rather than one that's a bit farther away. And even if the fees at Yescapa might seem high, I think I'd rather pay higher fees and be sure that everything works well. Again, it's really stressful, really stressful. As for which camper van will get rented the most, they're all more or less the same. It really depends on the clientele. Cabover models, the big cabovers, are more for large families. And as for fully integrated models, you find a bit fewer of those on the platforms. So, if you have one, you might be able to use that to your advantage. Those are really for people looking for maximum comfort and autonomy. But it's still something in between that makes people want either a big one or a really small one, like a van. But for us, I know we actually have a fully integrated model, but it's 6 meters long and has a design that people really like. So, is it actually profitable to rent out your camper? Some say that with between 5 and 7 weeks of rental per year, depending on the season, as you can imagine, you can earn between 3,000 and 4,000 euros a year. Honestly, that's not bad. On some platforms, if you rent year, you make 30,000 euros. Can you imagine? That's a pretty hefty sum. Whereas Yescapa, for example, is aiming for something like 8,000 euros a year, because they assume it will be rented out for 100 days in the year. Of course, what really makes a difference is the time of year you decide to rent out your camper van. It will also depend on your camper van itself, how well you take care of it, and how it's decorated. Obviously, you need to decorate it in a neutral way if you want to maximize your chances of people being able to picture themselves in it. The more rundown, dirty, and neglected it is, the less likely you are to rent it out compared to something you really take good care of. So, kind of like renting out an apartment, it also depends a bit on where you're located, whether it's an area where people like to rent. I think in Brittany, you'll have a better chance of renting it out than on the French Riviera, because on the Riviera, it's already a place where people rarely go with camper vans since it's such a mess. So the money you're going to make, is it taxable? Is it under the table or what? Well, no, my friend, since you live in a country, you'll need to look into the rules where you live. For example, in France, obviously, you'll have to set up a company where you'll receive the income. In any case, these platforms make sure you can't work under the table. Here, I'm only talking about France. The applicable income is what's related to BIC, industrial and commercial profits. You can declare it as rental income in your annual tax return. Another small advantage is that your expenses, your campervan expenses, keep them. You never know. You can also present them as deductible expenses since you're renting out your campervan. But like everywhere else, when you earn something, if you don't want any trouble, you have to declare it. So the best way to be able to rent out your campervan is to take care of it, to make sure, obviously, that you won't have any issues with the person, like engine problems inside. Personally, I even recommend making a video showing how the campervan works. That's a little extra tip I can give you. Make a YouTube video presenting the campervan, showing how everything works, so that when you rent it out, you don't have to repeat yourself every time to your renter how everything works. When you arrive for the first time in a campervan you've never rented before, sometimes you feel completely lost, like a chicken in front of a toothpick. You have no idea what to do or how anything works. So make a video, make an explanatory video. I think for me, that's the best solution. I haven't rented out my campervan because I spend part of the year in Portugal, which would actually be a great place to rent it out. Except unless the laws have changed, if I ever list it on Yescapa, I won't be able to rent it out for more than 6 months in Portugal. After that, I'd have to change the license plate, or I'd have to keep renting it out in France. Except that in France, I don't want to rent it out in France. Personally, I want to rent it out in Portugal because I'm in the Algarve and it's a really great place to rent a campervan. And above all, it rents really well in the winter. In the winter. So it's the best time to bring in some cash. So it hasn't happened yet. The day it does happen, I'll make an update to this video and explain to you how and why not to rent out the campervan you own. With that, I hope this video will be useful. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Sending you kisses and see you very soon. Goodbye.